The latest in tech and accessibility. This is Access Tech Live with Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo.
And we're back on Access Tech Live. Now, Marc, before this big football game this past weekend, Taylor Swift was in the news, but not for any celebratory reasons.
No, Stephen, a couple of weeks back, we found out that a whole bunch of Taylor Swift deepfakes, where they put her head on the body of something that she probably didn't want to be part of, was circulating online. And later we found out that it was actually the result of a challenge from the cybergroup 4chan. So that got us thinking about AI, and while we try to spin the positive sometimes, you got to focus on the negatives, more so for our protection, I think. And while AI isn't in the Terminator mode taking over the world, we definitely have to think about safeguarding it. So, Stephen, joining us right now is Amber Mack. She's an award-winning podcaster, a best-selling author, the co-host of The Feed on SiriusXM. She's a mother, and she's an all-around tech expert. Amber, thank you for taking the time to join us this week.
Thanks so much for having me.
Now, Amber, the day after I emailed you, your newsletter came out, and it was on the exact same topic. So I think that, worlds were definitely on the same wavelengths. So here's the softest question I could possibly start an interview off with, which is, what is your take on some of this AI seediness and how on earth we're going to combat this? And when I say we, I mean the collective we, the world, the governments, the people, the everybody that's involved here.
Well, I think for all of us who have been on the internet for a really long time, we know that there has always been a dark side to internet technologies and internet communities. That has always existed. But I think what's different in 2024 in terms of AI is that the threat of deepfakes, both with audio and video, is targeting everyday citizens, including young people. So I think the concern really is that, first of all, as a parent, I'm worried about the next generation being targets of deepfake content. And secondly, I'm not entirely convinced that we have the right leaders in place in both big tech as well as in government to really guide us safely down this path. So it's really creating a perfect storm when the lives of young people, and especially young girls and women, are truly at risk.
Now, stories came out just last week about Meta, and likely others as well, to start identifying images that are AI generated. I guess that's an interesting start to this, but the question is, Amber, is it enough, and is it even helpful?
Well, I think when we see some of these big tech companies trying to make moves to allow us to move into this world of artificial intelligence with more transparency, it is always a good thing. But I think it's also fair to say that those of us who understand tech really know that, yes, you can perhaps, identify images that are manipulated online, but it's easy enough for someone to take screenshots and for those images to spread around the internet. So it's not really foolproof in terms of that level of protection that people really need. It reminds me a little bit of the days where we would talk about disappearing social media, like, oh, you send a message and then it disappears and no one can see it. Well, we all know that, that could be screenshotted, and it was easy to do so. So I think, again, these big tech companies are trying to keep up with these changes, but I think it's just kind of a drop in the bucket in terms of some of the things that they're offering to do, when really at the end of the day, I think what we need, especially from those big tech companies, is more human moderators, more customer service channels, places that we can go when we have legitimate complaints about some of these deepfake videos and audio files that are impacting our lives.
Amber, you talked about not having necessarily the right leaders in place, and I think that goes for some of the companies, the big tech companies, some of the government as well. What do you think it takes for that individual or the right people to be in place? What criteria do we need to have in place there?
Well, I think it's fair to say that when we look at some of the social media companies that are running these online spaces around the world, there's not a lot of diversity among those leaders. I think we can kind of start there. So I think when you don't have diversity among some of those leaders in the social media space, what you get from them is a very narrow view of what experiences are like online. Those views often differ from what many of us are experiencing day to day. So that's, I think, first and foremost. If we go over to the government side on the leadership issue, I think it's also fair to say that within government, we don't necessarily have that many leaders who truly understand digital in a way that is aligned with the impact that digital is having on our lives. And again, this creates an environment where I think the average person is left out there kind of living in the Wild West, unsure of what protections do exist and what avenues to follow if, in fact, they experience or encounter something online that is detrimental to their experience.
I want to pick up on something you said earlier, Amber, about the disappearing messages. I think back to Snapchat, and of course WhatsApp as well has that functionality. Are you saying that methods like that are not safe? If we use, for example, incognito mode, if someone thinks, oh, well, hey, you know, I'm browsing on something, maybe I don't want to be stored on my computer, so I'll go into incognito mode on my browser. Is that not working? Does it matter if we use those features? Is the data still presenting itself to these companies? So really, we're not making ourselves any safer by using those features.
I think it's good when people take precautions, and I would call them precautions. So I think it's good when you use some of the tools that do exist to further protect your experiences online. At the same time, I think people should understand that there is no safe experience online in terms of your data. You know, if you don't want your privacy to potentially be impacted, you probably shouldn't be online at all. That's not realistic for most people, but I would never tell someone that, hey, you know what, if you use incognito mode or if you use disappearing messages, you're 100% safe and no one can ever see those messages. All of us who understand the tech world get that, you know, there's always workarounds in terms of your information being shared. So I don't want to discourage people from using the layers of protection that do exist in the digital space, but I do want people to be aware that, you know, it's never 100% safe in terms of our online experiences. And when we approach these online experiences with that viewpoint, I think we start to better understand some of the risks that do exist.
You know, I think about our smart speakers as well, and there's always that question that comes up: are they listening? Are they aware of what I'm saying? What's your take on this from your understanding? Because there are people who will say, well, you know, I don't go online, I don't search that much, I don't spend a lot of time, you know, using websites that are nefarious or doing anything dodgy, you know, but when I go on to Facebook or I go on to Twitter, an ad will pop up about something I was just either thinking about or I've been talking to a friend about.
I think it's really important for people to weigh the benefits versus the risks with all technology. So, you know, I speak a lot across the country about emerging technologies, and I talk about smart speakers a lot. And I often get that reply that, oh my gosh, I would never have a smart speaker because it's listening. Well, guess what? That's actually how it works. It has to listen to you. So that's how the technology is designed. So when you prompt it to kind of wake up, it is listening to what you're saying, and then it responds. And so that's just how it works. But there are so many instances in terms of accessibility where voice assistants are hugely beneficial, even to seniors, for example. I think of my father-in-law. He had a fall a couple of years ago, and he used a smart speaker to call his daughter, and he was not near a phone, and essentially that allowed him to have this vehicle to be able to get in touch with a loved one, and then the ambulance came. So the benefits in that situation really outweighed the risk. Was he worried, you know, living alone, that the speaker was listening to him? Well, not really. You know, he wasn't talking to anyone. So we have to be intelligent about how these benefits outweigh the risks, and accept that there's always risk to anything. Just like when I drive on the 401 in downtown Toronto, there are really big risks to that, but sometimes I have to get to where I'm going.
Amber, what do you think we can do about some of the inequality when it comes to access to you know, just digital access? I mean, you think about the accessibility community, and the fact of the matter is, when you look at the numbers, that not everybody has equal access to devices or the skills in which they need to even identify the things that can keep them safe. Are there things we can do other than having conversations like this?
Well, I think when we talk about access to technology, there are a number of issues. And so it's kind of like peeling back an onion, right? And the issues include things like access to the internet. We know there are still lots of communities across the country that don't have adequate access to the internet, and that creates a digital inequality. I mean, that's something that, you know, we would all like to see fixed in the very soon future. Also, when we talk about access to newer technologies, you're exactly right. I mean, there's plenty of examples examples of how technologies are just totally out of reach for the average person. That creates another issue in terms of people not having access. When we talk about skills, I mean, think about artificial intelligence as just one example. And I think it's very clear to say that the leading companies in this country and around the world are doing as much as they can to ensure that they are ready for this transformation that's happening, that's fueled by artificial intelligence, and they're upskilling the average worker. Do I think that that upskilling is happening in call centers where people answering phones are going to lose their job any day now? Probably not. So unfortunately, as much as I love technology, I love the accessibility that technology does provide. I think in the future, unfortunately, I think we're going to continue to see this large gap in terms of access to the technology and to the skills in the digital space that can all help us really advance in our lives. And that comes back again, I think, to having leaders in place who understand that the skills gap is one example, the infrastructure gap, and really trying to close it, because there's no excuse. I mean, the digital world is not new, right? It's decades in the making.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel, I must admit, when I hear from younger generations, and I don't mean children, I know we're going to get into talking later about parents and children and staying safe online and all of the important stuff around that, but I think the younger generations, the teens and those in their 20s today, are far less concerned about privacy than perhaps generations like mine are and were. Do you feel that there's a change in the air?
I think there's absolutely a change, and you're bang on in terms of the next generation and how they view privacy. I think they're much more open and accepting of the fact that, hey, you know, again, I want to use these services, I want to use these tools, I want to connect with my friends, and there's a trade-off. I mean, even look at the app Snap as one example for young people. I mean, one of the most popular features within that app is their maps. That means at any time my 15-year-old son can see where all of his friends are at a moment, you know, just clicking and seeing where they are around the city or across the country. So to me, it feels like you're exactly right. I don't know if privacy is something that they perhaps take as seriously, but I think there's a downside to that as well. I mean, Snap Maps, for example, really increases that kind of FOMO among the next generation, the fear of missing out in a very real way that is causing mental health issues among young people, because at any moment they feel like they're not included. That's the last thing that this generation needs.
Amber, stick around. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about that parent inside of you and tell you a couple stories that scared the crap out of me. This is Access Tech Live. We're in conversation with Amber Mack. We'll be back in just a moment.
We want to hear from you. Follow us on social media and get involved at Access Tech Live. We'll be right back.